going on, everyone? Welcome. This is today. I forgot what show I was doing. Today is Thursday. It is December 8th, 2022. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first one. I almost did a rolling intro into martial arts radio, which would have been really confusing because that's not the show that I'm doing right now. There is a new episode of Martial Arts Radio, at least I believe there is. There sure is. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the final day of my Tony Robbins event. We're going to talk about what's going on for me today, tomorrow, and through the weekend. And yes, we will have a show tomorrow. I don't know when. I'm probably going to sleep. And because the last thing I'm going to do is deprive you all of a show with jokes. I know how much you appreciate your Friday shows. I do as well, and I'm not going to take that away from you. But starting Monday, we will be back to 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern because it's time. It's time to get back to the routine. Who's here? I want to say good morning to Mark and Stacy, Nathan, Jenny, Dennis, and all the rest of you out there, whether you're watching maybe now, maybe you're watching later on today, later Thursday, when you get time at lunch or something. Or maybe you're watching Good Morning Andrew sometime deep into the future. Who knows? Thank you for coming by. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Well, good morning, Brian. Yesterday was, and this morning was, the final day of the Tony Robbins event. I think the best analogy I can offer you, early anecdote, for how the event went is that Tony lost his voice so hard. If you've ever heard him talk in the last few years, you know that he's strained his vocal cords and his voice is very gravelly. Not unlike this, but even more so. But he went so hard over the last few days, despite taking time and breaks and everything, that he wasn't able to come to the closing. He did it over Zoom and printed out what he wanted to say and held it up to the camera. Now you might think, why is that a big deal? I cannot fathom that this man would miss the end without an incredibly good reason. So that's how hard we went. This is one of those things that you take stuff away for. You're digesting for a very long time. That's what this is going to be. As much as I like to sometimes think that Whistlekick provides everything anybody might need, I know we don't, and I know we never will. No one group, company, family, as much as we are, can ever provide everything. So if there's something that you think you might be missing, if I've at all inspired you, I would encourage you to explore these events that his organization offers. I've said often, you guys have heard me say it constantly, that I believe martial arts is the best growth and personal growth engine that we have available to. It gives back what we put in, it makes us better versions of ourselves, right? Like, I have these quotes that are around that concept, and I still believe that. What makes martial arts great in that way is that it also does so many other things, and it's so accessible. But I will not pretend that a couple days or a couple weeks, a couple months, or even a couple years of martial arts training compares to what we've done in the last week. Ended up somewhere close to 90 hours in 6 days. I'm fried. I think I got 4.5 hours of sleep last night, which felt amazing. That's a lot of sleep compared to some of the nights. And according to others back in the day, sometimes they'd have 2-3 hour breaks before they would start back again. Not even enough. really feeling like you're getting a night's sleep, you're taking a long nap. And I think I'm thankful that it wasn't that, but it was incredible. The group of people that I met is second only to the folks that I know in martial arts, including all of you. So, uh, good morning. Stacy says, so no seminar today. Was there going to be a seminar today? Am I missing something? Yes, here I am. So what's next? I have to pack up. I'm going to grab brunch with some folks. I have a 5 o'clock flight. I get in at like 10. I think it's around 10. And we'll drive home and pass out. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I got to pack. I just did the carry-on thing, so I have to find a way to get everything back in there. All clothes that were nice and neat and folded. And now that they've been worn and they're wrinkled and they're not folded, vacuum cubes are a wonderful thing. Okay, I understand. He said, no, Tony Robbins. Prior to you saying it was finished, it is finished. Stick a fork in me. I am finished. But I have to tell you, there's one of the biggest content from the events takeaways that I just have to mention. I told you I think it was day 2 or 3 that I was fasting through the day, and that got easier, and it got so much easier that once again yesterday, got up after the show. I went downstairs. I made myself breakfast and probably had 1,200 calories, maybe 1,000 calories, as much fat as I could, butter on everything, that kind of deal. I haven't eaten since. I didn't eat last night when I got back. It's the first time I did that. I didn't need to. And actually, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. I did have some salmon, some grilled salmon. It was probably 200 calories. At 10:30. But there's really something interesting in there for me. So I'm going to explore that. As I come up with things, I will let you know. That's something we were talking about CrossFit and talking about all the things that I've brought back into Whistlekick and the stuff that we teach and offer coming out of that community. And it reminded me of the training programs and realizing that there are more training programs in my brain, several more that I want to do. And I'm looking forward to doing some of those over the next couple of weeks. There are a couple that I really would like to have done for January 1st. There's one that's like a 30-day challenge sort of a deal that very well might be free. We'll see. I don't know. I got to think about what it is and who it appeals to and how we get them, how we bring them in, how we get them to see the beauty of it. Tommy says, even free training day, I needed Brian and Steve to help me pack one backpack. I'm so absent-minded. See, I hear you say that, and certainly this is coming out of some of the reframing work that we've been doing over the last week. You're not absent-minded. There are other things that are more important to you than packing a backpack. And I imagine those things involve connecting with other people. There are people for whom packing the backpack would be critical. Probably me a week ago. Let's slow down. All right, now Frank did send some stuff over. I'm going to read that. Actually, no, before that, I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell you about today's episode. Today, I have an episode. Andrew and I did one, episode 769, Measuring Progress as a Martial Artist. Now, if you think about it, how do we measure progress? Rank and a handful of other things. And we talk about those things. But we also talk about how maybe that's not always the best way to look at your training. And we talk about some of the things that I feel we as an industry might consider doing differently, because in doing so, it creates some opportunities, opens up some space to do some other things differently. That might be pretty good. Jenny says, Tommy connecting with other people at free training day? Nah. Take care, Brian. Brian's headed out. Have a great day. Stretch. I got my Star Wars deal. I had a couple people come up to me and they're like, Star Wars. I was like, read it again. And they're like, Star Wars. I know this is one of Dennis's favorite graphics. There we go. I have so many orders to ship out. I have like 4 or 5 sparring gear orders to ship tomorrow, which is crazy. I had this feeling, like, yeah, as soon as I get into playing, people are going to start buying gear because I want people to ship it to them. It happened. That's cool. All right, so I do hope you check that episode out. And if it inspires you in some way, if it gives you some ideas of things that, hey, Jeremy, Andrew, what about this? What about that? I like how this, I like that, whatever. I want to hear about it. I always want to hear your feedback on episodes. The place that I most encourage is the Martial Arts Radio Behind the Scenes Facebook group on Facebook. That's redundant. But if it's something private, if it's something that you don't want to share publicly, you're always welcome to reach out to me. The best way is email jeremy@olsec.com. Jenny also loves her Star Wars tee. I think the tee is down, but there may or may not still be a hoodie you can buy. But if you don't see it, don't worry. We will probably pull it back out of the vault maybe next year. Who knows? All right, so take a look here. Stuff from Frank. Thank you as always to Frank for making sure I got stuff to talk about, taking care of me, doing some stuff on the back end, and your overall support. Excuse me. Thank you to Josh for our theme song. And we will refer to person number 3 for the audio stuff. Oh, we gotta scroll down. The best way to get a better answer is to start asking a better question. Of course, we've got 3 Tony Robbins quotes for you today. Frank loves being topical, which I appreciate. It's something that sounds irrelevant, almost, right? Like, what do you mean a better question? Most of us have elements in our life, maybe it's our training, relationships, whatever it is, where we're asking questions. Because what do questions get? They get you information. We're looking for information. We're trying to find out what is going to make my training better. Why are you doing this? Who are you? Where am I going? Right. And some of these are innocuous questions. Others are rather powerful and important. And something that I've learned to do, I wouldn't have been able to summarize it so elegantly without this. But in the consulting work that I do, in the running businesses, there are questions. How do I make more money? How can I make this business more profitable? Right? Those are great questions, but there are far better questions. Maybe it's, why do I feel I put so much time in and it doesn't move the needle? Why do I feel like no matter how many times I practice this kick, it's not getting better? Those are much better questions because it gives you an idea of where to start for the answer. And if we can find the answer, well, then we're happy. And sometimes there's another question behind the answer. Some of you are probably used to, how do I describe it? If you ask someone a question and they answer, and you ask why, right? Like if you ask why, I think it's 5 times. Ultimately, you get to some pretty deep stuff. Why? Well, because of why? Well, because if I didn't do that, then this. Why? Okay. And usually, if you do it to someone who doesn't know that you're doing it with purpose, they'll get exasperated. And usually, question number or answer number 4, 5, 6 is like, well, brr, and they just and I didn't even realize that. Right? So it's kind of a cool tool, and it's one you can use yourself. you're trying to get to the bottom of something, just keep asking why and keep digging behind it and see what's there. There's another interesting strategy that we were taught that came up a couple times. And if you ask someone a question and they say, "Oh, I don't know," you say, "Well, if you did know, what would you say?" And if you can get someone to do that with some intensity, well, if you didn't know, what would you say? Not, well, if you did know, right? Like you've got to get them to respond quickly. It can tap into their subconscious and they'll give you an answer. Well, brr. Oh, okay. So now we've got an answer. Kenny says, I love that there is no shortage of great Tony Robbins quotes. That says something. It does. It does. The man's, he is a gift. He is an absolute gift. Tommy says, childlike wonder and faith. Why? It's a beautiful moment when it dawns on you. Our next one. Identify your problems, but give your power and energy to solutions. This is something that men generally focus on, and women generally spend more time with the question. What does that mean? It means women can ask the better questions. Men often are more focused on the answers, and there are reasons for that. We're not going to get into that. And again, note that I said generally. But the solutions are how we move forward. If you think about solutions as stairs, there's a problem in front of you. I just came up with this. I like this analogy. There's a problem in front of you. There's a barrier. There's this thing is blocking your way. How you can't move forward unless you step up. What's the standard step? 8 inches? 6 inches? Now there's another different problem. It might look the same, but it's different. You have to step over it. There's your solution. That'll get you somewhere. I've found, do any of you have or are you familiar with the Remarkable tablets? I saw a bunch of these all over the place. And I've been familiar with them and have thought about getting one. I'm pretty sure I'm going to now. It's essentially digital paper. It's a notebook that, from what I'm told, and everybody who had one said, yes, this is the greatest thing. It's an attempt to, with a digital tablet, closer simulate writing on a piece of paper. There's a bit of a texture to it. They're not cheap. They're not like $50, but they're also, if I remember correctly, Liz says she has one. I think they're like $200, $175, and I haven't pulled the trigger on one. $200, $250. But there's something different in the psychology of writing when you take notes versus typing. Now, I'm usually typing to take notes because I got to go fast. But if it's something that I'm going to refer back to, if it's something that I want to ingrain, like based on what everybody said, if I was to go back to school, I would want to have one of these because it's, I'm going to have all the benefits of digitization. I also get the benefits of really kind of connecting physically. When you type, your brain doesn't know what to do with that. It happens. But when you write, there's something hardwired there. That's kind of neat. And our last goal for the day before I send you off into the world and hopefully check out episode 769 of Martial Arts Radio. Jenny says, there's a reason I write down so much. I'm a notorious note taker. And Tommy says, one of my students has one. Looks pretty freaking cool. I think it is. I've definitely pulled back from my immersion in technology. I look for where can I simplify. I used to have complex home networks and things because it gave me something to do. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed learning, but I found I was spending so much time being involved in those things that I didn't want to do that anymore. So I'm hesitant on new technology at this point, but this is something that I think I may try. Liz says, yes, they are not cheap, but my work bought it for me. I like writing, but I need my projects managed digitally, which that kind of describes me. So our last quote, it is your decisions and not your conditions that determine your destiny. This is a concept that so many people are resistant to. How many of you are familiar with the saying, or even a common hashtag, first world problems? The idea that people complain about some pretty irrelevant stuff. Now, how many of you are familiar with some story of somebody in the world who overcame incredible odds to succeed, to do something great? What did they do? They defied their odds. They didn't let their circumstances bog them down. Politics aside, when people come to this country, we have people who walk 10,000 miles to get here. How many people do you know that would abandon everything they have and know and walk 10,000 miles for a better life? Forget about what they have. 10,000 miles for a better life. Most people I know wouldn't walk down the street for a better life. They won't take any action. But there's always that opportunity. There's always more. There's always better. There's always something we can have. The more time we invest in complaining, trying to make other people change, not accepting reality as it is, etc., the more we're going to suffer. And it's not going to change on its own. Things rarely change unless we change them. My challenge to you is to consider, where is it that you need to do this, or stop doing this, rather. Stop focusing on the problems. Stop focusing on the circumstances. Focus on the solutions. There are solutions to every problem. Is it possible you're in circumstances where you don't like any of the options? Yeah. That's why people don't change. If one option was amazing and the other really, really sucked, it wouldn't really be a choice. You would have already done it. You wouldn't have had to stop and think about it. If you're at an intersection in a car and there's a tractor-trailer truck coming, barreling down on you, but you really want to turn right, it's right on red, because you're in a rush to get somewhere, there's a pretty small chance that you're going to pull out in front of that truck. Once in a while somebody doesn't work out well, but that's a pretty obvious choice. I think I'll wait. I would like to go, but the consequences are pretty dire. You don't feel painful about that. You might feel some suffering in the circumstance. Oh, I don't want to wait. Been here forever. This is such a long life. Whatever. But it happens all the time to most people. Sometimes you just have to accept where you are. Other times you have to dig deep and create the change. So that's where I will leave you. I hope you have a fantastic day. Wish me well as I travel home. I am closing out points on the American Airlines card I got, so I'm flying first class. There wasn't enough to do first class on the way down, but I was able to upgrade with some points, headed back up for like $100. So yeah, I will do that. Take care, everybody. I will see you tomorrow for Friday. Have a great day.